Daf Yomi Tractate Chullin, page 34. Daf Lamed Daled, on the top of the page, with the words Bechulin Shinaasu al Taharas Truma. Bechulin Shinaasu al Taharas Truma, V'Rav Yehoshua lo sol kedai tachet ketani v'osol di betruma v'osol mi'iko. With regard to the case of non-sacred food items that were prepared on the level of purity of truma, and in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehoshua, the Gemara responds, it should not enter your mind that the Mishnah is referring to a case of the level of purity of truma, as the Mishnah teaches a case of the slaughter of animals and birds and consumption of their meat. And if the Mishnah is taught with regard to non-sacred food items that were prepared on the level of purity of teruma, is there meat eaten with the level of purity of truma? The practice of preparing non-sacred food items on the level of purity of truma is done only so that one will not treat actual truma in the correct manner, and truma is separated only from produce that grows in the ground. Elamai b'kadoshim chai b'kadoshim mika basa mechalef basa v'perelai mechalef. The Gemara asks, rather, what is the case in the Mishnah? It is a case of non-sacred food items that were prepared on the level of purity of sacrificial food. Is it a case of non-sacred food items that were prepared on the level of purity of sacrificial food? Is there an undomesticated animal that can be sacrificed as an offering and its meat is sacrificial food? The Gemara answers, although undomesticated animals cannot be sacrificed as an offering, there are those who would undertake to eat their meat only when prepared on the level of purity of sacrificial food, because meat of an undomesticated animal is sometimes interchanged with meat of a domesticated animal. No one would undertake to eat meat only when prepared on the level of purity of truma, because meat would not be interchanged with produce. Amar Ula Chavara Yamrin Mechulin Shinasu al Taharas HaKodesh Udelo Rav Yehoshua. Ula said, my colleagues say that the Mishnah is referring to the case of non-sacred food items that were prepared on the level of purity of sacrificial food. And the Mishnah is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehoshua, who says that non-sacred food items that were prepared on the level of purity of truma assume third degree impurity, but non-sacred food items that were prepared on the level of purity of sacrificial food do not assume third degree impurity. Ve'ana mina v'shuahi ve'lo mi'baya kamau lo mi'baya chulin shinasu das kodesh dechamiri dispehu shlishi el afilu chulin shinasu al taras teruma nami isbehu shlishi. Ula continues, and I say that the Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehoshua, and when he said that non-sacred food items that were prepared on the level of purity of truma assume third degree impurity, he is speaking utilizing the style of it is not necessary. It is not necessary to say that in the case of non-sacred food items that were prepared on the level of purity of sacrificial food, which is stringent, that they have the capacity of assuming third degree impurity. Rather, even non-sacred food items that were prepared on the level of purity of truma also have the capacity of assuming third degree impurity. Man chavaraya Rabba bar bar Chana hi Yama Rabba bar bar Chana bar Yochanan Mai ahadaru Rabbi Eliezer v'Rav Yehoshua le'adadi. The Gemara asks, who are the colleagues to whom Ula referred? It is Rabba bar bar Chana. As Rabba bar bar Chana says that, Rabbi Yochanan says, what did Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua reply to each other? The differences between their opinions are twofold. First, Rabbi Eliezer holds that one who eats food with first-degree impurity assumes first-degree impurity, while according to Rabbi Yehoshua, he assumes second-degree impurity. Second, Rabbi Eliezer holds that one who eats food with third-degree impurity assumes third-degree impurity, while according to Rabbi Yehoshua, he assumes second-degree impurity vis-a-vis sacrificial food, but not vis-a-vis teruma. Amar lo Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yehoshua, matzinu oichel chamor min oichel, דהינו למסויף טוב בחוץ, לא מטעמי ולא אכלו, מטעמי וגולדים, הבייס הבליעו והנוהך, לא נעשה אוכל כמאכל. Rabbi Eliezer says to Rabbi Yehoshua, the basis, for my opinion, is that one assumes the level of impurity of that which he ate, is that we found a case where the halacha of the one who eats a food item is more stringent than the halacha of the food itself, as the carcass of a kosher bird on the outside. Meaning, when one comes into contact with it, does not impart ritual impurity, while one who eats the carcass of the kosher bird renders his garments impure when the food is in his throat. And we, in light of that, how will we not deem one who eats the impure item to be on the level of impurity, at least like that of the food that he ate? Rabbi Yehoshua, miniv lasoif, toich lo yigabrino nechidishu, el matzino shemachal chamur min oichel, teilu machal givim beitza, yoichel, עד יאכל לחצי פרס, ואנו הייך נעשה אוכל כמאכל. Rabbi Yehoshua responded that we do not derive other cases from the case of the carcass of a kosher bird because it is a novel ruling that cannot serve as a paradigm. Rather, we found that the halacha of food is more stringent than the halacha of the one who eats it, as food becomes impure if its measure is that of an egg bulk, and one who eats impure food does not become impure until he eats half of a loaf. And we, in light of that, how will we deem one who eats the impure item to be on a level of impurity like that of food that he ate? Rabbi Eliezer, tuma mishiurin lo agarinan, ועוד לדבריך שאתה אומר, הראשון שני, יופי אתה אומר, שני למה? Rabbi Eliezer responded, we do not derive the relative stringency of ritual impurity from the relative size of the halachic measures, as measures are not indicative of stringency or leniency. And furthermore, according to your statement, that which you say with regard to one who eats food with first-degree ritual impurity, that he assumes second-degree impurity, what you say is well. But that which you say with regard to one who eats food with second-degree impurity, that he assumes second-degree impurity, why is that the case? It contradicts your reasoning. Amar lo, matzinu shasheni oise, sheni al yedei mashkin. Rabbi Yehoshua said to Rabbi Eliezer, we found that food with second-degree impurity renders other food impure with second-degree impurity by means of liquids. Liquids that come into contact with food with second-degree impurity render other food with which they come into contact impure with second-degree impurity. Amar lo v'homashkina mitchila v'uditnan kol hapoisim betruma metami mashkin liyois tchilo chutz mitfuliyoim. Rabbi Eliezer said to him, but aren't those liquids also impure with first-degree ritual impurity through contact with an item impure with second-degree impurity, as we learned in the Mishnah in Parah 8:7, any item with second-degree ritual impurity that disqualifies true renders liquids impure with first-degree ritual impurity. These liquids assume a degree of impurity greater than that of the item that rendered them impure. This rabbinic decree applies to all people and items of second degree impurity, except for one who was ritually impure, who immersed that day and is waiting for nightfall for the purification process to be completed. Liquids with which he comes into contact follow the standard course of transmitted impurity and assume third degree impurity, one level below his own impurity. Rabbi Eliezer questioned the next segment of the ruling of Rabbi Yehoshua, and furthermore, that which you say with regard to one who eats food with third degree impurity, that he assumes second degree impurity vis-a-vis sacrificial food. Why is that the halacha? It contradicts your reasoning. Amr lo, afani lo amarti el b'truma shetaharata. Rabbi Yehoshua said to Rabbi Eliezer, I too stated that one who eats food with third degree impurity assumes second degree impurity vis-a-vis sacrificial food, only with regard to one who eats non-sacred food items that were prepared on the level of purity of truma as its state of purity. Now for 34b, Tuma hi etzel hegdish is impurity vis-a-vis sacrificial food. The sages on top of 34b, the sages issued a decree that even one who is vigilant to partake of his truma in a state of ritual purity is considered impure vis-a-vis one partaking of sacrificial food. Therefore, one who ate a food item that was prepared on the level of purity of truma that had become impure with third degree impurity assumes second degree impurity, and he renders sacrificial food impure. Okay, we'll stop here and pick it up with 34b on the next video.